Hello, ACG members and friends. I'm Catherine Hill Ritchie, and I'm an active member of ACG since 2016. I'm also head of the ACG New York Family Office Committee, and I'm on the ACG New York board. The past few months, the world's really just been an incredible upheaval. With COVID-19, deaths and job loss, a volatile stock market, and the tragic death of George Floyd, people are just sad and depressed and worried and frustrated. What we're trying to do is highlight family offices and their executives that are using their network and capital for good. Today, I have a wonderful friend with me, Lina Constantinovici, who's going to be telling us more about herself and all the great work she's doing. Welcome, Lina.
Thank you, Catherine. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me as a guest. I look forward to the conversation, and thank you again for having me.
Please tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Sure. I represent the investment side of More Family Office, where we invest in life sciences, in technology, and real estate. I also founded a nonprofit called Innovation 4.4 that's focused on the field building part of the innovation cycle. And we've been focused on longevity and oceans technologies. I also co-founded the Impact Investing Working Group at Nexus Global, which is a community of about 6,000 next generation inheritors all over the world. And I also serve on many boards of wonderful organizations that are making the world a better place.
So you're based in San Francisco. Could you tell us about, what you personally saw and found that troubled you at the beginning of the COVID crisis and what you did?
Sure. So about 3 months ago now, as the COVID crisis really started to impact the United States and other parts of the world, I started to get calls from our partners around the world, from other family offices that either had businesses related to COVID solutions, or were looking for investment opportunities, or were looking to partner on the philanthropic side and really help those most in need. And what became apparent very quickly is that the traditional supply chain for medical supplies, for PPE, for ventilators, and even for tests was no longer viable, and that it was severely disrupted, and those who were in need were having a really difficult time getting these supplies. And so that there was a need essentially for those with skills to be helpful, to step in. And that's where initially in a very informal way, for example, just to give an example of what I'm referring to, we got a call from Stanford Medical Center, one of the most preeminent medical centers in the world. And they were one of the few places at the time in the Bay Area doing testing for COVID-19. And they had run out of the reagent needed for the testing and were having a really difficult time obtaining the reagent through the traditional channels that they typically would go through. And when this came to my attention, I was able to, with one phone call to one of my mentees, who then made a call to the largest supplier of reagent in China and was able to get it for Stanford. So it required that kind of intervention that's unconventional, let's say, in pre-COVID times. And that there was a lot to do and a lot to step up to help with for those of us that have those global relationships as well as skills. And so it initially started in a very informal way with a few phone calls, helping a few folks that we were able to make those connections for, and then turned into a more formal initiative where I refocused my nonprofit fully on addressing the COVID-19 crisis. And we did that by facilitating getting masks to millions of dollars worth of masks to nursing homes and others in need. And most recently, we've partnered with a family office in the UK that owns a shoe company called Vivo Barefoot, and the family office, or the family, is the Clark family of Clark's shoes that
Oh,
you're
yeah.
familiar with. And the next generation had started this new shoe company that's sustainable shoe company. They work with indigenous communities around the world and just do amazing work in this space in terms of being innovators and really propelling the industry forward. They decided that they wanted to reward those who were frontline volunteers, who are helping their communities and who are delivering medication to the elderly, or purchasing groceries, or whatever may be helpful in their particular communities. They wanted to gift them the gift of a sustainable pair of shoes, because they are mostly either doing this work on foot or on a bicycle and so on in their community. And then we also partnered, and so they've donated 1,000 pairs of shoes in the US for us through our nonprofit to distribute to various communities. And we're distributing some in San Francisco here with one of the largest organizations of frontline volunteers. They have 700 volunteers that are working in the community. We've also allocated some to 6 indigenous tribes in Northern California. They have volunteers in their communities that are caring for their elderly. And then we've partnered with another nonprofit in LA that works with the homeless community there, and with many volunteers who are meeting the needs of that community. And so that's been a really wonderful partnership. We've collaborated on other fronts as well through their corporate nonprofit that is in the process of being formed, and more to come on that front. So we're really looking forward to that. And then we've also partnered with another company called Naturepedic. They have an organic mattress that they typically make in non-COVID times, and it's produced in the US. So what they were able to do is redirect all of their sewing capacity to make masks for COVID-19. And these are organic cotton masks for the average person. They're not medically certified, so they're not intended for a medical setting. There's tremendous need for non-medical masks as well. And they've mostly been giving them away philanthropically, and also selling them at cost to those who want to purchase them. So we've received a donation of masks as well. So we're able to, with these frontline volunteers, gift them not only a pair of shoes, but a mask to keep safe as they do their work in the community.
Well, that's really fantastic. It just shows how, you can use your global network to really mobilize people and efforts, and everything from the second gen in the UK to the groups here. I mean, that's really fantastic. I do think that why we're highlighting you today and these organizations is so that people at home maybe can or be inspired by it, or somehow connect, because there are a lot of people who I think feel isolated and want to know about positive things that are going on. And so if there are ways that they can join you or support you, we want to, definitely highlight that. But we'd love to hear about, this kind of work that you're doing, and kind of what the next steps are.
Sure. One of the things that's been most inspiring for me, as someone who's been for the last 15 years and on the front lines of early stage technology commercialization and innovation, has been the tremendous innovation, perhaps unprecedented, that's happening right now as a result of the urgent need for innovation. And it's not just when it comes to diagnostics or vaccines. They're all aspects of COVID-related needs that are being innovated, and whether it's supply chains to ventilators to new materials for masks using nanotechnology. There's so much that's happened as as a result of the great need for innovation that exists right now. And that's been really exciting for me to watch and participate in. And I think from a family office perspective, there's such opportunity right now to be involved in funding these innovations that have also unprecedented opportunities for returns. Even with the companies that are that are offering these products in the most ethical way and are committed to humanitarian pricing and are participating with their values at the forefront, there's still tremendous opportunity for value creation right now with the innovation that's happening, and that's been really interesting for me to see, and I think that trend will continue for the next year or two, as the new normal becomes more clear and the needs of that new normal become more clear. And so there's I think great opportunity right now, more so than I've seen in the last 15 years since I've been closely involved with innovation. So I think that's something to pay attention to and really explore from a family office perspective.
I think those are great points. You know, whenever there are times of distress, there's always great opportunity. And I think especially in innovation, when you can solve a pain point, you can be very successful. And in this point, things have, in our society have been exposed. For example, the kind of throwaway society, or the fact that a lot of these were single-use plastics and things like that, and that they weren't built with the design in mind to clean them or sterilize them, and not sustainable materials. So I think utilizing new technology, sustainable materials for all of this, it's just a great opportunity for family offices to get involved, not just from it could be philanthropic, it could be social impact, it could be just pure investment, because frankly the returns are there. But it's great if you can kind of roll all those things into one. But certainly those kind of positive attributes, having a triple bottom line, are there as well with these kind of opportunities. So,
I mean, the medical supply space has not been innovated or disrupted very much in a very long time, and it was in many ways ripe for that. And this is such a powerful impetus. There are new players that have never been interested in this space before that have come onto the scene. There are innovators of all kinds that are motivated by the great need to innovate, that have stepped into those roles. And so there's a much broader pool of innovators involved in the space than before. And that's really exciting and inspiring to see. And it also presents great opportunities both on the philanthropic side and on the investment side. And if you can bring both together, that's really, really powerful.
Well, yeah, it would be great to hear, with the current climate, I mean, how has it impacted your particular investment strategy?
Well, there's some interesting related, not directly COVID diagnostics or treatments, but related categories. So, for example, packaging. Obviously we're ordering groceries for those of us that perhaps didn't before COVID, that we're getting so much more delivered than we were before. And the issue of packaging is much more visible, therefore, when you have a manyfold increase in a short period of time. And so a couple of companies that I've been closely watching that have been innovators in the sustainable packaging space have done extremely well. And those are great investment opportunities because it's a market that's again been ripe for innovation, and in terms of the regulatory side and so on. And now with COVID, there's greater demand for sustainable packaging. And so those who've been at the forefront of innovation there are doing very well right now and seeing increased demand beyond what any of their even most optimistic projections may have been showing pre-COVID. So there are certain related categories of investments that are really interesting that may not have been on the radar of most family offices or investors that merit really exploring and considering.
Well, that's a really fantastic idea. Yeah, think about it. Sometimes it's the simplest idea, and that one's kind of staring you in the face. I mean, everyone's been ordering from home, and it's got to come in some kind of packaging, and to have it sustainable, recyclable, all of that is a really good idea. Well,
and the masks also. I mean, I think most of us have seen those really concerning images, videos, and pictures of surgical masks floating at the bottom of the ocean, or hundreds of them floating on the beach or near beach. So there's the issues that previously were not as visible as to why it's important to innovate are in the news every day right now. And so I think that's a really this is a really great inflection point for innovation and a really great impetus to evolve many of our practices of how we think about the products that we produce and consume.
Yes, that's a fantastic point. Well, I want to just thank you, Lina, for your insights and all the good work that you're doing. And we will make sure any of our viewers and members can get in touch with you or any of the organizations that you mentioned. As I said, we want to highlight positive things happening in the world right now with everything that's going on. It's wonderful to hear from you about the things you've been doing globally, but also about your views on investments and what's going on. So thank you again for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Catherine, for having me.